practical and spiritual. A strong woman in her essence is a gift to the world. Yes, today, the Indian Federation of University Women's Association with IQAC Annamala University is organizing a webinar on protection of human rights of women. On behalf of IFUWA and IQ of Annamala University, a warm welcome to one and all. Let's start the program with a prayer. Prayer by Pravina. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo, Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat, Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Om Shanti Shanti. This is the maiden program of IFUWA and a humble request to all the participants to mute their mics during the program and to give in their questions in the chat box, which will be dealt by the moderator after the chief guest address. Your cooperation in this effort will be highly appreciated. A person who believes in be who you are and say what you feel, because those who mind don't matter and those who matter don't mind. I request our most dynamic president of IFWA, Dr. Ranjana Banerjee, Madam, to welcome the gathering and deliver the presidential address. Madam, please.
Thank you, Pravina.
But that's what I don't know.
Welcome all of you to the IFUWA IQAC collaboration webinar on protection of human rights for women. IFUWA is basically academic oriented, and I thought it is only right that if we could give cognizance to the United Nations Human Rights Day and its just completed 16 days of activism, which is protecting women from different kinds of violence. I would like to begin my presidential address by quoting what Eleanor Roosevelt said. Where, after all, do human rights begin? In small places, close to home, so close and so small that they cannot be seen on any map of the world. Unless these rights have meaning there, they have little meaning anywhere. Without concerted citizen action to uphold them close to home, we shall look in vain for progress in the larger world. Well, increasing the level of public awareness and understanding that women's rights are also human rights is imperative to be achieved through education and training. It is essential for the promotion and achievement of stable and harmonious relations among communities and for fostering mutual understanding, tolerance, and peace. We will reach our common goals only if we are able to create equal opportunities for all, address the failures of our system that is violating women's rights, apply human rights standards to tackle inequalities, exclusion, and discrimination. There is need for action to showcase practical and inspirational examples that can really help in the maintenance of women's rights and contribute to recovering better and fostering more resilient and just societies. Human rights are at the heart of the Sustainable Development Goals, as in the absence of human dignity, we cannot hope to drive sustainable development. Human rights are driven by progress on all SDGs, and the SDGs are driven by an advancement on human rights and dignity. And with this, today's speaker, Jyotika Kalra, member of the Human Rights Commission, will explain more to us about the women's rights and its protection. Over to you, Pravina.
Thank you, Madam, for the presidential address. A dream does not become reality through magic. It takes sweat, determination, and hard work. Such a determined person is our Director, Professor Arivudayanam of IQAC Annamala University. Sir, I request sir to give the special address.
Good evening to
Good evening to everyone who are all attending the webinar. Madam President IFUWA, then members, all other members. First of all, I thank everyone in the organization and organizing the webinar for having given me the chance to meet you all through this webinar. Once again, good evening to everyone. So this is very interesting topic. So Indian Federation of University Women Association, they're organizing with IQAC. So protection of human rights of women. Actually, this debate started back in 1848. Actually, when India got its first woman in the form of Savitribai Phule. You know that the mother of Indian feminism. Since then, different personalities in different forms, still they are passing the torch. IFUWA. Madam, hearing? Are you hearing?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, IFUWA is the correct platform that is actually working towards empowerment of women and creating awareness about human rights of women in many forms. The word women in our country has the synonym, the sacrifice. But in my view, this particular word, the sacrifice, this actually leads to prevention of their rights, and this leads to many problems in our society. So even slavery sacrifice may have the synonym like violence, slavery, or discrimination. However, you know that Danish and Scandinavian women are the happiest women in the world or on the globe. But I wish our Indian women should top in that particular list. So how we can top in that list? This is only by education. So as already in the presidential address, Dr. Rajana, she actually highlighted the points related to education. So education, equal access to education and equal access to employment and away from domestic and social violence. These are all the tools to reach that top. Actually, in our Annamalai University, we are offering almost around 250 PG courses. So I have statistics on the students who are all studying in these courses. So if you compare the total number of male, female, so almost all PG courses, 9,200 boys are there, 8,400 girl students are studying. So the ratio is very, very minimum between the male and female. It's very, very narrow bridge. We can easily match that. But interestingly, if you see course-wise, there are three courses, three programs in our university. So it is in marine biology and skill development courses, earth science courses offered by geology. In those three courses only, we have less number of girl students. For example, in marine, 315 boys are studying, 180 girls are there. In skill development courses, 53 girls, 96 boys. In earth science courses, 335 boys, 97 girls. But if you see other courses, very interesting, the girls are ahead than the number of boys studying in this. Actually, we are girls are actually selecting the courses which are all almost knowledge based. So in maths, physics, so higher number of girls are studying, almost 250 girls. But if you see the ratio of boys in maths, it is around 80 only. So that vast difference, knowledge based courses, almost most of the girls are preferring. But especially the marine and the geology, like few courses, we have less number of girls. But anyhow, this particular improvement is the very important thing in our university. As per the instruction of our Vice Chancellor, we have revised our curriculum in IQAC, and interestingly, there are 50 courses. It may be a core or elective courses. They are actually addressing the problems and the rights of women. So you know that the contribution of women to family, society, nation, their dignity, their right, their health, nutrition. So there are almost 50 core courses which are all addressing the problems across all the programs there. So this is actually by UNO's SDG. You are all aware of UNO's SDG. The fifth goal in that is gender equality. So this gender equality is addressed very well in our university curricula. Like that, all the universities in India should address all the problems faced by our our sisters, and we have to address everything. Then only we can reach that top in this. So the tool we have to give the decision-making power for them also. How to achieve that decision-making power? There are 3 A's there. One is access to education, access to employment, and then away from domestic and social violence. So I have statistics. I just asked my PhD Yale students what are the actual problems faced in this society by you, or how we can do some protection of human rights of women. So in this small survey, just only 25 students joined in this, and unanimously, all the girls, they have given 2 points. They have rightly pointed 2 things. One is they are seeking safety. So their parents are always worried about the safety in the society. So that's the main thing they are telling. Then second point, most of the girls, they are hesitating to express their views in the society. These 2 things are the maximum hurdles to achieve their goal in their life. So this Indian Federation of University Women Association should pave the way for these 2 things. They have to actually make the girl students to express their views without any hesitation, and the safety is another important thing that we have to give assurance to that. Then only we can protect human rights of women. With these few words, I thank the organizers for having given me the opportunity to participate in this particular webinar. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for your interesting and thought-provoking special address. Now is the time to introduce the guest speaker of this webinar, Ms. Jyotika Kalra. She is a member of the National Human Rights Commission, and she has joined in April 2017. She is a practicing advocate and advocate record with Honorable Supreme Court of India. She got a Bachelor's of Law degree from Delhi Campus Law Center, Master of Law from Kurukshetra University. She has raised the and appointed as the member of the National Human Rights Commission. She has been with subjects like women, children, lesser gender, trafficking, reproductive, etc. Under her leadership, she has conducted many workshops in restorative justice, sexual harassment at workplace, gender equality, economic development, and she has been honored by the Supreme Court of India for her 3 books. She was given the award of Outstanding Women in 2014 by the National Commission for Women. She is in the expert committee of the National Commission for Women, and she has deliberated on drafts of and related laws. She's been appointed as amicus curiae in important matters, some of them concerning violation of women's rights. She was on the panel of the Supreme Court Legal Service Committee. A passionate activist, she has been associated with many NGOs. As a representative organization, Mrs. Jyotika Kalra has attended international conferences at Istanbul, Manchester, United Nations headquarters, New York. She has deliberated on many rights issues of women, which includes surrogacy, female fetichism, witch hunting, etc. She worked on the rights of domestic workers, workers in the Gulf, Dalit entry in temples, victims of religious fundamentalism. She has presented many papers in the country and abroad. Her sole motive is to spread the ideas and in furtherance of the same, reach out as many people as possible. Her articles, mainly on the subject of women and law, have been published in various magazines and newspapers. In the past, she has enjoyed imparting knowledge as part-time lecturer, Faculty of Law, University of Delhi and Indra Pradesh College, Delhi University. Such a versatile personality will handle the session. Before that, our President, Dr. S. Poongodathi, Madam, will offer felicitations to her. Poongodathi, Madam, please. Poongodathi, Madam.
Yes. Yes, mute. It's a joyful good evening to all. It's my immense pleasure to welcome you all to this August gathering. I thank our Honorable Vice Chancellor and Registrar for giving for permission for this webinar. I welcome Ranjana Banerjee ma'am and Arivudai Nambi sir, then Pavina, the chief guest, Jyotika Kalra, the member, National Commission for Human Rights, Advocate, Supreme Court, the real eminent personality. She imparts confidence to the women community, and the Chiamastri Sen, Sai Leela, who are going to help in this webinar, and all the executive committee members of IFUA, UWAS, presidents, ARs, participants, and all the eminent personality of attending the webinar. A very good evening to all. It gives me pleasure to introduce that is the IFUA Calcutta headquarters is doing wonderful things, and we are celebrating our centenary. We are doing our centenary celebrations. And when we come to the UWA Chidambaram chapter, we are glad. We are going to next year, we are going to celebrate our silver jubilee. It was founded in 1996 at the founder chair, President Mamta Das, and under the noble guidance of Kumara Rani Meena Muttaya of Chettinad. And we are following the activities and goals of IFUA strictly in our Chidambaram chapter, and we are carrying out number of activities annually. We are conducting computer training for the women students annually, and we are conducting competitions to school children and women to university women students, and we are conducting webinars. That is, recently we conducted national level webinars on wellness of women during this lockdown period of COVID-19 pandemic, and we are glad to share with you. Annually, we are conducting awareness campaign for the freshers, for the fresh students on gender sensitization. This is as per the UGC norms, and highlighting gender equality and awareness. What about the sexual harassment at workplace, legal awareness, rights to women, and nearly 1 lakh students of our university get benefited. This program will be conducted by the experts from each and every field. Exclusively women will be the resource persons. And we are very glad to hear you that we are going to have a very good lecture from our eminent personality, the Ms. Jyotika Kalra, on the rights, prevention of rights to women, how to get the rights to women, the awareness. And we have a number of, that is the Article 15 of our Constitution allows special provisions for women and children. We are entitled to get free legal advice, legal aid, and we have to maintain dignity and decency in the at workplace. And even we have the domestic violence. We have the right to fight for the domestic violence, and also we have, that is the virtual complaints. We can be able to go for virtual complaint, need not to go in person. We can send email. That right is given. It's a special right to women exclusively. And also we can go for zero FIR. Wherever the police station is there, we can go for that. So there are so many special rights to women and also children. Yeah, all those things will be dealt by our special speaker, and we must take women as we are empowered. Most of us are empowered, and as our objective of our IFUA is empowerment of women through higher education. And also I'm glad to hear, share with you, the Chidambaram chapter received 2 scholarships for the PhD scholars, Ms. Ammu and Akila from Faculty of Science. They have received already the first installment of 20,000 each. Now the next 2 installments will be provided by the IFUA. At this juncture, on behalf of UWA Chidambaram chapter, I thank IFUA for giving this nice opportunity. Wish you all the best. Thank you very much.
Thank you, madam. Thank you, madam, for the felicitations. Now I request Jyotika, madam, take question, and I request all the participants to mute the and give your questions in the chat box so that it can be handled after the session is over. Madam, please.
Yeah. Thank you so much, and thank you IFUWA, and thanks IQAC Annamalai University for giving me this opportunity. Although I am part of IFUWA and the places where I presented the paper, it was all because of Manchester and Istanbul. It was all because of IFUWA. So I don't think that there is a formality of saying thanks. I can see all my friends on this video and this grid view. So anyway, so we are here to celebrate the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And when we are talking of Universal Declaration of Human Rights, because it's a very vast subject, we chose to talk about human rights of women, and even amongst that, the SDG 5, which was just referred by Ranjana, that gender equality. So I would be emphasizing mainly on gender equality. Basically, I'll start by quoting Simone de Beauvoir, who is a French writer and philosopher. She said that one is not born, but rather becomes a woman. So from there starts the struggle. There starts human rights and rights of women. Women become women. And this 10th of December 1948, when Universal Declaration of Human Rights was adopted by the United Nations, the preamble, the first para of that preamble mentions about, whereas the recognition of inherent dignity and the equal and inalienable rights of all members of the human family is the foundation of freedom, justice, and peace in the world. So equality and inalienable rights of all members will lay down the foundation for freedom, justice, and peace. And on this occasion, I feel it important to also discuss the contribution made by the Indian women to this Universal Declaration. The Article 1 of this Universal Declaration refers to that all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. They are endowed with reasons and conscience and should act towards one another in a spirit of brotherhood. So this Article 1 in itself is the entire gamut of human rights. It's important to mention about the contribution made by an Indian woman in this Article 1 was all men are born free and equal in dignity. It was Hansa Mehta of India, who was an Indian delegate to United Nations Commission on Human Rights from 1947 to 1948. Hansa Mehta made it all human beings and got it changed from all men to all human beings. And this is, it's because of her that we are discussing about human beings. Otherwise, we would have been discussing about all men. Our constitution, because I think in the introduction, it has been referred, the Universal Declaration has been referred, the provisions of the constitution have been referred, Article 14, 15. I'm not going by that, but it is ensured, as far the constitution is concerned, it is ensured in the preamble as well as the chapter 3 of fundamental rights and directive principle of state policies. But the constitutional dream of gender equality is miles away from becoming a reality even today. And what is the reason for that? Why it is still it's away from becoming a reality? The reason is, to begin with, the custom and age-old prejudices, religious and cultural beliefs and practices. They put Indian women in a subservient position in almost all the domains of life. Because of lower participation of women in education, lack of exposure, and lack of access to economic resources, the women has become mainly dependent upon the male folk. And even today, the mainstream is very much a mainstream. And why it's, as I said about the constitutional, cultural and religious and age-old biases and age-old prejudices, but there are institutional biases also against the women. And institutional biases are against women, and they are more against married women. Marriage was considered as a disability right in 1979 when C.B. Muthamma, an IAFS officer, had to file a petition before the Honorable Supreme Court challenging regulation of the Indian Foreign Services, which said that if a woman had to marry, she will have to seek permission from the employer. And the reason given was that with the marriage comes the family responsibilities, and those responsibilities will deviate this employee from performing the official duties. And when it was challenged before the Honorable Supreme Court, Justice V.R. Krishna Iyer, when set it aside, very, very openly said that if marriage brings responsibility and obligation to women, they are equally with the men. So marriage brings responsibility for men also, and this regulation was set aside. And in army, there is for law graduate, there is an exam of Judge Advocate General. And this Judge Advocate General was not recruiting married women. Like a married man could have been recruited, where married women was not permitted. I myself filed that petition before the Honorable Delhi High Court. And when that petition was filed, the Ministry of Defense came up with a response or reply that appointing a married woman will cost dearly to the employer because of the maternity benefits, etc., which the government has to bear because of a married woman. And then this logic was not accepted by the High Court, and this cannot be accepted because that's also a right of the women. But what was done by the Ministry of Defense, that rather than giving married women a right to apply for the Judge Advocate General exam, the Ministry of Defense took away the rights also of the married men, that they can also not apply for the Judge Advocate General exam. Anyway, equality is there, maybe in this form. And going by the discrimination on ground of pregnancy, we have the Nagesh Mirza judgment from the Honorable Supreme Court about the airlines discriminating against women on the ground of pregnancy. That judgment was decided in a manner that the classification has to be reasonable and reasoned, but the pregnant women are also discriminated upon. And not only that, marriage or pregnancy, but women were not recruited. Institutional biases, as I said, even, this petition was also filed by me before the Delhi High Court. That was about the territorial army. The territorial army doesn't invite women, was not inviting women to serve in the territorial army. Before the Honorable High Court, the women has been given an opportunity to join territorial army. Now, when the invitation comes, the women are also invited to join the territorial army. And as we all know, that women never had the privilege to be on the permanent commission of the armed forces, and the Delhi High Court had granted the right of permanent commission to the women officers, but that petition was challenged by the government of India before the Supreme Court. But finally, the Supreme Court also recently, a year before, has allowed that petition and held that the women is also entitled to hold permanent commission in the Indian Army. And similarly, one of the case which was filed by me before the Supreme Court of India, that was with regard to a makeup artist. She was Charu Khurana, a very renowned makeup artist. She was Hollywood trained makeup artist, but when she applied for her membership with the Mumbai Cine Makeup Artists Union, she was declined to, she was refused the right to practice as a makeup artist, and she was only allowed to be a hairdresser. And when she resisted to it, the reply which came from the union was that if women are allowed to practice as a makeup artist in the cine makeup industry, then everybody will start getting the makeup done through women only, and the males will be unemployed, and their families will come on the roads. So I mean, that was the logic for not giving.
Madam, no sound, madam. Jyotika, madam. I'm able to hear you, madam.
Jyotika, have you lost connectivity? We can't hear you.
Someone has to call her better.
Jyotika,
She may not realize she's not audible, so someone may have to call her.
Someone has to call her, please.
Yes, I think my network, there was a network issue. So considering such challenges to women, what we found today that in the 16th Lok Sabha, the representation of women was only 11%. The 17th Lok Sabha has a maximum number of women representative, and courtesy West Bengal and Odisha, which gave more seats to the women member of parliament, that the best Lok Sabha has only 14.3% representation of women. And I mean, it's so surprising that when I was talking about the institutional biases, the women right to practice as a lawyer came only in 1922. And the abysmal condition in the judges also, High Court or Supreme Court, out of 600 male judges in High Court, there are only 62 female judges. And I mean, even Supreme Court had only 6 or 7 judges up till now, out of the 229 total judges. The point is that, you know, we have a reversal in our country. The labor force participation of women is declining. And this is not only the fact, but our Ministry of Statistical and Program Implementation has also come up with the data that the labor force participation of women as of now is the minimum. And I mean, these are the situation despite all the measures. But still, I mean, the government is also concerned about the representation of women. So certain safeguards or the special provisions which have been introduced by the government, like mandating the listed companies to have one female director, like increasing the maternity leave from 12 to 26 weeks, like giving the child care leave of 2 years to the women employees. Certain states like UP has reservation, 20% reservation of women in the police services. UP has 20% reservation of the women judges, and 73rd Amendment of the Constitution, which we all, relish, that is amending to Article 243D of the Constitution, whereby 33% reservation was given to the women in the local bodies and panchayati raj system. And so, it's all not that everything is very negative and wrong. There are some positive steps also taken, and we are so glad to share that all the women panchayats and in women panchayat or the local bodies, women are performing really good. And this challenge can be overcome by certain safeguards which we need to have as a society: safe and secure workplaces, safe and secure public spaces, and then sensitization at the workplace. The issue of menstruation, the issue of pregnancy, the issue of child care or family care should not be only considered as a women problem. It should not women issue. It is a society or a social issue, and the society must take it in that spirit. The workplace must take it in that spirit, and and then stigma to men who sit at home, that is also very bad in society, that men should always be working and women should always sit at home. So that stigma should also go. Men can also prefer to sit at home and take care of the children and the family things. And then stigma that a career oriented women or a successful women will only be doing it at the cost of family. That perception has to go. We have so many live examples before us that a successful or career-oriented women really have good, intelligent, and successful children. So that perception, that stereotype that women success would be at the cost of the family's family's well-being should also go. The once that equality, which is SDG 5 gender equality, once that equality and dignity is ensured to the women, I think all the rights of women will become a reality, and the struggle of protection will go, and all the women will be in a position to enjoy that. And National Human Rights Commission also recently had a workshop, and Maithili is there, and she was also part of that, deliberating upon this fall of women in the economic activities, lesser participation of women. And it came up with certain recommendations which are there on the website of the National Human Rights Commission. And I'll quickly just share those recommendations. Like first is that this child care leave should be jointly shared by both the parents. Why only the women be expected to sacrifice her career or her professional avenues for taking child care leave? The education also should not have that gender stereotype and role of women, which the children are taught from the very beginning. That should go. And maternity benefit to the students, those who are in the higher education, should also be encouraged. In the rural areas, it was the recommendation was given that let the women farmer have activities like dairy farming, poultry, goatry, piggery, sheep rearing. So it will also encourage more educated women to join agriculture. And the commission also recommended for urban employment guarantee scheme on the lines of Manrega. And this in this urban employment guarantee scheme, a particular reservation should be made for women. And for skill development also, there has to be more focus on the information technology when the women are working from home. This will help more women to join workforce. And the non-conventional jobs like driving, plumber, carpenter, electrician, etc., women should be encouraged to join these kinds of non-conventional jobs. Working women hostel, for working women, it is a big issue. Safety and security. The state must provide for safe and secure working women hostels. And safety and security of women, as I said, is a very important criteria, and this is being said why the young women are not joining the workforce. So apart from the safe and secure working environment, the features or the requirements of the POSH Act, which is sexual harassment of women at workplace, that should also be followed and adhered in the letter and spirit. Care economy, which is a very recent phenomenon, very recent word I have seen, that the state must invest in the care economy. The care of the children, the care of the elderly should be in a organized or institutional manner. There, it should be taken up not as a personal issues, but on the society or institutional manner. And then, for disabled women also, the recommendation was that access to resources and access to the opportunities which are available for them should be accessible. And different welfare schemes were also discussed were also recommended in those recommendations. And I will like to conclude by quoting Robert Zoliak, and I quote that equality is not the right thing to do, it's a smart economics. How can an economy achieve full potential if it ignores, sidelines, or fails to invest in half of its population? And I unquote. And thank you so very much to each one of you personally, and I conclude.
Thank you, Jyotika. Pravina, please take up the questions.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, madam. Thank you, madam, for your informative address, citing various cases and verdicts related to women issues like marriage, harassments, employment, opportunities, armed forces, representation in Lok Sabha, Supreme Court, and High Courts. It was a very nice session. We gathered more information from your session, ma'am. Thank you so much. Now, I like to ask some of the questions posted in the chat box. From Ranjana Banerjee, ma'am, asked, do we have laws that protect women in the unorganized sector? Do we have laws that protect women in the unorganized sector? Question by Ranjana Banerjee, ma'am.
No, as of now, we, as far as sexual harassment of women at workplace is concerned, yes, in the unorganized sectors also the women are protected. There is a provision for local complaints committee. So wherever there is no internal complaints committee, this local complaint committee takes care of the protection of women from sexual harassment in the unorganized sector. But all the benefits which should have been there, like the maids or the women working in the household, there is no law as such. That the bill was passed about I think 7 years before or something, but it is still at that stage only. There is no law to protect the working condition of the women in the unorganized sector, especially like maids, etc.
Thank you, ma'am. Next question is by Srimati, ma'am. If the institution is not taking care of the logical concern of the woman participant, what the woman employee should do? Please discuss.
I'm not able to get the question.
If the institution is not...
I can read the question. The chat box is open before me, but I'm not getting the sense.
Okay.
Institution is not taking care of it.
Madam, she's asking if the institution where she's working is not taking care of her, what should she do? Like that she's meaning. When there are, if the institution is not taking care, again, it is very large statement, a very wide statement. But as far as the mechanism is there, as I said, that sexual harassment of women at workplace is there, which specifically deals with the issues of harassment of women at the workplace, and other issues which are related to the service condition, etc. They are gender neutral. So whichever forum is there for men or women, if she has certain concerns or issues regarding her working conditions or service conditions, I think that gender neutral forum is there, and that has to be agitated before that forum. Thank you.
Thank you, madam.
Next.
Ma'am, next question is by Smita Rai, ma'am. Any special provisions or laws to support women in these pandemic times?
I mean, there cannot be, and there is no special law to support women in this pandemic time. But what has been seen, and even at NHRC or National Commission for Women, there was a rise in the complaints of domestic violence during this pandemic time. So one of the the National Human Rights Commission has also issued an advisory on women during the pandemic time. So it's because the protections are already there. Even if it is pandemic or it is no pandemic, the protections are there, and those laws can be invoked. So my point is, even if there is no special law, but the existing laws are good enough to take care of women even during the pandemic time. And if any specific incidents, I can give the specific law also.
Thank you, madam. The next question is by our IFUWA Chidambaram chapter, ma'am, Pungadai, ma'am. Rural women are still struggling. Is there any special amendments?
No, again, this is again a very wide question. Rural women are still struggling. Every man, I mean, that struggle part is very wide, but there is no special amendment or there is no special case for the struggle of the rural women.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am. Next question, ma'am.
Is there any
Is there any special rights for terminally ill women like cancer patient? By Pravina, ma'am.
I mean, there are no such special right. These like cancer or terminally ill, these are the gender neutral issues. So the protections which are there to men are there to women. There are no special provisions or special protections for women being a cancer patient or terminally ill patient.
Thank you, ma'am. Next question is by Andal, ma'am. What is the present level of women representation in Supreme Court?
Is it is this question relates to judiciary?
The case is registered, madam.
Case is registered, I mean, this I can't answer like this. I mean, there cannot be a statement of the cases registered, because cases do not get registered under the heading women or something. A woman can be a petitioner before the Supreme Court for many other reasons, not only that. If a woman has filed a petition, it would be related to a gender specific issues only. So this question that way cannot be answered. I mean, the data is not being maintained in that form.
Thank you, ma'am. Next question is, there is a fear of losing the job if a woman uses this right, maybe immediately or later too. In organized and unorganized sector, how can this be avoided?
And this is a real fear, I think, and because I have been into this, I've been working in this area of sexual harassment of women at workplace. This is a real fear. Women loses job. So for this can be avoided, I think the women should not take any step in a hurry. And whenever there is a complaint of sexual harassment, she must gather the evidences. I mean, maybe telephonic conversation, photographs or video, whatever possible. And she should also discuss or share her grievance with a lawyer or a professional person, so that when she files a complaint, it is not a half-baked complaint, or it's not a complaint which can be thrown on the threshold. So a strong and a legally sound complaint, I think, can be a neutralizer from checking or from ensuring that women doesn't lose job if she raises her concerns regarding her harassment at workplace.
Thank you, ma'am. Question from Maithili, ma'am. Can single women enforce their right to abortion if they are denied the right by a hospital?
Look, the right to abortion, a married woman, yes, the husband's consent is there. But the Termination of Pregnancy Act mentions abortion is not a right per se. It mentions about the conditions or circumstances under which a woman can get her pregnancy terminated. So single women or a married woman, husband's consent is required because he is also father of the child. That is a separate issue. But as far as termination of pregnancy is concerned, that termination of pregnancy can only be as per the law of Medical Termination of Pregnancy Act. So it is not like a right that a woman can get her pregnancy terminated. If it falls within that Medical Termination of Pregnancy Act, her being single or not single.
Thank you, ma'am. The next question is, participation of girls at school level has always been low. It has become worse during COVID pandemic time. Is anything being done by government to rectify this?
I mean, this is a common problem. Common means everybody is facing this problem of girls not being allowed to go to school during pandemic time. They are getting married at a very early age. And I mean, this is a real problem. But as up till now in Delhi and many parts of the country, the schools have yet not opened. So the redressal can only come when the schools open, when the children, including girls, start going to schools, because it is not only girls, but the children are back to the streets. I mean, they have become beggars, they are rag pickers. So that's a serious issue which our country is facing. Even otherwise, educationally, we are doing very bad. But this pandemic has made that situation still worse. So I think this solution can come only when this pandemic issue is over and the states are in a position to open the school, then only this problem can be resolved.
Pravina, are there any more questions?
Last question, ma'am. One last question.
Okay, I have one question to ask after the last question.
Okay.
Okay, ma'am. By Sumita Rai. The question is by Sumita Rai, ma'am. We saw the plight of migrant laborers and the women are the worst sufferers. Any special provisions given to NGOs to deal with this situation?
I think it's a question which is quite late now. The migrant workers issue was during March, exodus in a big number around say 27th, 28th March of 2020. And then there was after 15-20 days, it was from Mumbai. And then, the massive movement started in May beginning. I mean, I had been to different places. I had an occasion to talk with different migrant laborers on the Yamuna Express, on Ghazipur border. So I went there and talked to them. So now those migrant workers who had gone have, because the economic activity has started, so they have also come back. So, I mean, to my understanding, it is a question which is slightly late, because that issue, I mean, more or less is no more a problem as of now.
Jyotika, I have a question to ask, which is not particularly related to women, but very important in today's society. And that is, the transgenders have been recognized in society now. Now, if a transgender is working in an organized sector, is there any law to protect them if they're harassed?
No, but there is a complete act on Transgender Act, rights of transgender persons, transgender persons. There is an entire law, and it has come after this NALSA judgment, NALSA versus Union of India, National Legal Aid Society of India. Before the Supreme Court. Supreme Court recognized that identity of transgender in that very judgment. And
Yes.
then Tej Singh Johar, another judgment which referred to about 377, that is unnatural sex. So now there is an entire act of transgenders which protects the rights of the transgenders. So that act covers the rights and issues of transgenders even at the workplace. I am also heading the core group of transgenders in the National Human Rights Commission. So while holding one of the meeting, I gave them open invitation that please, send someone to join the National Human Rights Commission as an employee, because that
Yes.
will send a message across. But till date, and I pursued it even after that, I talked to some people individually that I'm looking forward to see a transgender in the office. That makes the inclusive workplace. But it's not only the workplace is not prepared to include them, but the transgender, to my understanding also, it will take some time, are also not that prepared to join a workplace, which is not their conventional or the cultural workplaces.
Thank you.
Oh, okay, madam.
Yes.
And shall we conclude this question and answer session, madam?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, you may.
Sai Leela madam, I thank Sai Leela madam for handling the question session very nicely, and Jyotika madam for patiently answering all the questions. We are very happy, madam. And now it's the time to express gratitude. It is not happy people who are thankful. It's thankful people who are happy. Therefore, I request Dr. Shyama-Sri Sen, the CAR of IFUWA, to propose the vote of thanks. Madam, please.
Thank you. Am I audible?
Yes, madam.
Yes, you are.
Good evening. John F. Kennedy had said, and I quote, "We must find time to stop and thank the people who make a difference in our lives." I consider myself very lucky to have been chosen to say a thank you to those who made this seminar on human rights for women so interesting and worthwhile. Thank you, Indian Federation of University Women's Associations, IQAC of Annamalai University, and UWA Chidambaram for organizing this evening's seminar. Thank you, Dr. S. Arivurai Nambi, Director, IQAC Annamalai University, for explaining how there is gender equality in your university. Dr. Ranjana Banerjee, President of IFUA, has shown us the way by organizing this seminar. Thank you. No words of thanks are enough to laud our speaker, Ms. Jyotika Kalra, for her frank opinion about the near abysmal situation of women in many sections of Indian society, though she has reassured us that there will come a day when there will be more gender equality in our country. Thanks to Ms. Praveena Krishnan, member of UWA Chidambaram and member of the IFUA Education Committee, for arranging and designing today's seminar, as well as for the technical support she provided. Dr. Punguthai, President of UWA Chidambaram, congratulations to your two students who received the IFUA scholarship. We truly enjoyed the seminar you organized and look forward to many more in the future. A huge thank you to Ms. Purabhi Ghosh Mohan for organizing our Zoom meeting and for getting our seminar uploaded live on Facebook. Last but not the least, thank you to all who attended this seminar, whether on the Zoom platform or live on Facebook. I'm sure this seminar has given us a lot of information on the laws for the protection of girls' and women's rights, and we all look forward to many more such seminars. And before I end, once again, Ms. Jyotika Kalra, I heard you in Madras, and now I heard you today on WhatsApp, on Zoom, and every time I listen to you, I want to listen more and more. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
I must also say thank you to each one of you. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Jyotika. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, madam. Thank you for giving us this opportunity. Ranjana madam, Jyotika madam, Shyama-Sri Sen madam.
IFUWA is very thankful to each and every member who belongs to IFUA for attending this knowledgeable, informative, erudite seminar. Thanks a lot to our speaker and to everybody who has made it possible to make this webinar a success. Thank you and good night.
Thank you, ma'am. Thanks.